Hi guys, this is WendyMichelle Thompson, and I have got to say, this is probably the hardest video I have made to date. I've made 235 videos for YouTube, done a lot of face streams or live streams on Facebook, and I usually try to focus on the joys of life. And even if you're having a rough time, how you can pick joy out of that. Because usually when we fall down, whether we're learning or making mistakes, that's when we learn the most. And that's what takes us to the next level. We don't get to the next level without some failures. Some of us will have more failures than others. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has a different path. As you can see by my thumbnail, I have my name, my date of birth, this big dash, and date of death. Now, like I said, I don't typically make videos like this. It's a little somber. Bear with me. It's actually really funny because when I looked at my recording schedule, I did not realize that I had a very solemn think video, and right after that, a very exciting, uplifting one. And I'm thinking, how did I not catch that? But in the busy, and that's why I'm glad we're not doing live stream. But you get so busy and caught up in things. Have you ever walked through a graveyard? It just, all you see are the names and the date of birth, a dash, and the day they died. Some have something nice written by the family or a favorite quote. Maybe it's a child that was taken away very young, and there's a little angel statue. The thing we often forget about is those people, whether it was 100 years ago, or they died yesterday, or 300 years ago, and you can barely make out what the marble says. Some people don't even have their names, dates, or anything on their headstones. They were all real people, just like us. And it makes me wonder, what kind of person were they? Were they happy? Did they have a family? What kind of things did they enjoy? It could be the small things that I enjoy. It could be the small things that I love, but I'm so busy in life that I don't take the time to notice and keep on going to the next thing. Basically, our life is in that dash, but nowhere on that headstone does it say what was in that dash. How are you living your dash? And there's a lot of different things that motivated this video. I have had a very rough year with my physical health. Now, in one way, I'm healthier than I've ever been. I have been on a great physical workout regimen for a good 5 years. I quit smoking 6 years ago. I finally figured out that I was gluten intolerant, and that completely changed my diet. And when I went through the menopause weight gain that just seemed to come out of nowhere, and realized that what I used to do to keep myself toned in the way I like to look, you know, everybody has a certain way they want to look. Everybody has different bodies, and it doesn't make one any better than the other. But I just know how greatly that affected me, because other than having my babies and putting on a lot of weight with my first two sons, I almost doubled myself with my first son. And I had gone through an ED for a long, long time. So, and it took me a long time to get pregnant. And I kept thinking, well, did that cause me not to get pregnant as quickly? It seemed like all my other friends were just getting pregnant left and right. Oh, we weren't even trying, you know, that type of thing. And you're happy for them, but you're just like, here I am, taking my body temperature every morning before I hop out of bed, writing it down, keeping a log of it for a year, trying to catch exactly those fertile moments, doing absurd things like standing on my head, literally in a hotel room. At one time, and this was with my first marriage, we were in Amway. Yeehaw! But we had gone to a convention that was far, far away. And I had been trying to get pregnant for so long. And of course, my periods would just really fluctuate. And I think it was the stress, you know. And there were so many times that I thought, oh my gosh, here I am at like day 45 and no cramps. I've got to be pregnant. The Walmart literally was within walking distance. I lived in Chesapeake, Virginia at that time, and I would always do my daily walks around the apartment building and the pond and the pool and over to Walmart, and I'd always walk my mail to the post office to get exercise. And I cannot tell you how many times I came back home, and as soon as I peed on that darn stick, there was blood. That's me dropping my pen for emphasis on my table. Oh. So, if anybody has gone through that, you know how frustrating it is. And it really, when it was getting close to 3 years or so, because my husband and I had dated for 4 years before we got married. And I went off the pill right away. I was ready to be a mom. I always wanted to be a mom. That was my dash. I knew as a young child that I wanted children, despite the fact that I do not have a great relationship with my mother at all. In fact, as of today, it's pretty much non-existent. And I tried and tried and tried. Just a very toxic relationship. She loved my brother. He was so simple and easy. He was the golden child. So yes, my mom. And some of you who are watching this that know me and my family are probably going to be horrified to hear this. But yes, my mom is very much a narcissist. And I spent so much of my life trying to please her. Just to hear, Wendy, great job. Great job. And the thing is, the things that I worked so hard, I was definitely type A. I was the first kid. My dad, I was so close to him. And honestly, she even came right out and told me that she was jealous of the relationship I had with Dad. They met, they got married very quickly. She was princess in his eyes. And then she found out she was pregnant, and I don't think it was quite exactly when she wanted it. Guys, give me 1,000 likes. I will gladly tell you some of the horrific stuff that I went through as a kid. I spent much of my childhood feeling depressed. I always had a smile on my face. I was always kind to other people, regardless of how they treated me. I'm still very much like that today. Children of narcissists tend to be people pleasers, codependents, and of course, guess what happens? You know, I wanted to be a mom. I wanted a big family. I wanted to be the exact opposite of her. And regardless of how hard I tried, I have 3 adult children. One's 27. And then there's just 2.5 years between the 2 boys, and 2.5 years between Noah and Grace. And there was a 10-year period. And I went back to nursing school, got another degree. That was part of my dash. I so badly wanted to be a nurse so that I could help other people. But I have to say, I was waiting for the right time to do it. I already had 1 degree, and it was in social services and psychology, and the different jobs that I did, like caseworker for Department of Social Services. You can only do so much for people, what the government will allow. And of course, there's people that abuse the system, but there's a lot of people, just like what we went through with COVID. So many people that need help, but I don't know how they do it now. But I do know that if you went in for financial assistance because you lost your job, something weird happened, you know, all of a sudden that income you had was no longer there, they would start with looking backwards at what you had made 3 months before. Well, of course, everything was fine and dandy then, and people didn't qualify. And it would be the same thing the next month and the next month. And they would have to be pretty much destitute for 3 months before they could qualify. It broke my heart. I, if anything, learned when I was growing up, I can't change my circumstances with my mother, I could paint the moon and it wouldn't matter. My dad, thankfully, was always my biggest cheerleader. And he wrote me one letter, and it was on my honeymoon after, well, while I was on my honeymoon, and he gave it to me when they picked us up at the airport. And it ended up being the only letter he wrote me. And it was so beautiful. And I still cry to this day. He's been gone. Oh, it was the same year my oldest son went into the military. A little patient that I did home health care for.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
All right now, Mr. Siri, I wasn't talking to you. Goodbye.
Okay.
At least he's polite, right? Where was I? I had been her RN. She's chronically ill. It's amazing she made it past 2 days of her life. And I knew that when I took the job on. But having gone through divorce and the kids going back and forth, my whole reason for going into nursing was because I wanted to be a scrub nurse. I was just fascinated with operations. I'm just fascinated with the human body, the anatomy, physiology, and how God has beautifully knit us all together. But once you're divorced and you don't know when you're going to get out of a surgery, you can't just, come out of the sterile area where you're helping the doctor, the anesthesiologist, and the rest of the surgical team and just leave because you got to pick your kids up from school. And it was a tough time. So I had to switch to a job that I knew where I'd have certain hours. And I do feel like with every part of my nursing degree, it has led me to where I am now. With the nursing that I've done in the last 7 years, it's all had to do with physical issues, but mental health was the main thing. And I worked with boys that were young and in long rehabilitation programs for various things. It could be small things like OCD to, all right, this kid has a lot of criminal behavior, drug problems, that type of thing. So their stay there varied from 3 months to 2 years. It's just once you turn 18, you couldn't be in that program anymore. I then went to work with boys and girls around the ages of 8 to 17. And these kids had been abused in the most horrible of ways. And, I loved working with those kids. When they came in to see me on Mondays, every Monday they had to weigh and see what was going on with them. I didn't care what mental diagnosis whatever had been stuck and labeled to them. In fact, I really do not believe it should be done at all before 18. But some of these kids, it is like the horrific stuff you see on the news that you just can't believe has happened to children. And I could relate to that. I mean, there was a time that I did just want to work with children that had been abused because I could relate to mental abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. I could relate to hating myself so much and wanting to die. And I'm sorry, guys. I will put a trigger warning at the beginning of this video. I want to share this with you because it is a huge part of my story. I mean, and our testimonies, whether you're a Christian or just going day by day, are constantly changing. You can't say that you're the same person that you were 10 years ago. I think about, hey, what if after my dash, tomorrow's date was there? Well, I would have died at 52. What was in my dash? I loved working with these kids. I then went to work at a detox center to help people that were addicted to alcohol, heroin, crack, cocaine, I mean, you name it. I loved working with all those patients. I then went to work at a men's medium security prison. Here I am, not quite 5 foot tall. And yeah, everybody's like, Wendy, they were so frightened for me. And I'm like, it's okay, it's okay. You know, we always have a police officer with us and this and that. I mean, there was always someone around. And out of all the time I was there, I can only think of one prisoner that gave me any kind of issues. And I would just smile at him every day. That's the best thing you can do for people like that. I feel like I'm rambling now and I've lost my focus. I have my notes here about what I was going to talk about, and it sort of changed a lot. So I know I'm going to end up making more videos. Let's just go ahead and say that maybe this will be part of mental health series or in my nursing series. But I love working with the prisoners. It was interesting. I have always pretty much worked third shift. That way, you know, if I was married, I felt like I was a single mom, whether I was married or not. But I never wanted the kids to be at home by themselves, especially, you know, when they got older. It was a little different. But at 40, and I'd only been married 6 weeks, I had one period. Ta-da! Zoe. She was so meant to be. And she's the only one at home now. I also have 3 bonus kids. I have never liked the word step-parents, step-moms, step-dads, step-kids. I still love those kids just as the ones I have given birth to. I don't see them like I'd like to, but they'll always be a huge part of my heart, regardless of the horrific relationship with Zoe's father, and it was their father too. But like I said, yeah, I had a string of crazy relationships. And every time I thought I had narcissism figured out, here it come Prince and packaged differently. And of course, you're way in over your head, with the love bombing and this and that, especially if you haven't been receiving any kind of love from your mom. You lose track of friends. That just happens naturally. I mean, thank God for Facebook and MySpace at one time. I've never been a Twitter person. I know I need to check it out. But, and Instagram too. Just really have a very small presence on there just to keep up with my older kids. But do I know how to use it? No, not really. But I think about all those tough times in my life. That was my dash. Am I happy? Say, boom, none of us are promised tomorrow. Am I happy with my dash? There's things that I would love to go back and change, and I am sure many of you can relate to this. If you could look at the timeline of your life, when you were born, and then, certain milestones, achievements, whatnot, you're like, ooh, right there. Color it with a red pen like a teacher, that big X mark, Yeah, that's when I strayed. I wasn't thinking things through. I was acting emotionally. I was just like starved for love and attention and to feel truly needed. Now, I was needed. Don't get me wrong. I was there and willing, and to this day, willing to drop everything for everyone. But it did get to a point where I was like going insane, trying to juggle all these things. And when hard times happen and your life gets put on display for some reason, and sometimes it's something like cancer, and all of a sudden you're publicly going through this in front of your friends, your family members, your church friends, your kids. Maybe you make a bad choice that is not typically you, which I can personally say I did. But, and I want to say, I'm saying but, that doesn't mean I'm getting ready to say what I did was right. It wasn't right. What I was going to say is I was not in the right mental headspace. I had lost my dad. I'd lost the little girl that had been my patient. I lost my son, my oldest son, to the Air Force. And he is still serving in the Air Force. And we rarely get to see him. And I was close to all my kids. I always felt like I was. And, you know, then you find out later on, well, maybe not so much. I am going to do a series called The Mommyhood. It is based off my Facebook Live that I did all the time for about 9 months. Really, it was preparing me for the unknown future of me wanting to be a YouTuber. And I had Coach Glitter, and I'm sure you guys know who she is. She was always bringing other people on her webinars that could teach us things about being in front of the camera. And that was pretty much for, I mean, you could use it for other reasons, but a lot of people were in e-commerce, or they had a certain niche. They had some kind of program or course they wanted to sell, and they wanted to get comfortable. And we had to put out 5 videos a week and then have our peers, you know, critique us. Sometimes it was harsh, but it was all done in love. I mean, you build a bond with ladies and the gentlemen in that group, and I still speak to a couple of them, and I'm so proud to see where some of them have got. And actually, I got so excited. I was watching Women of Impact the other night, and I saw Jen on there, and oh my gosh, her name's not coming to me. Coach Glitter's gonna be like, ah, but she was on Women of Impact with Lisa Moyu. I was like, oh my gosh, looky there. She's actually a friend. But some people turned and went other ways. Well, I never thought I'd be on YouTube. Literally, I ended up signing up for Coach Glitter's class on how to be on film because I started out with e-commerce. And I mean, I'm still in this group, but I just don't have anything I want to sell other than the truth of God's Word, how people can have spiritual health, good mental health, physical health, working their bodies out correctly and for what they can do. Sometimes we have limitations based on our age. Some of us may have arthritis or, you know, have had tons of operations. Some of us are getting older. You know, I take all of that into account with the videos. And in ladies chat, we can talk about sexual health. I recently just did a video on, okay, I know what I was attracted to in men when I was a teenager and in my 20s. How has that changed now that I'm in my 50s? It really made me wonder, you know, how other women and men look at that. Has your taste and character and the person's actual soul, their essence, you know, are you interested in completely different people now that you never thought you would be? Do you prefer a certain dress? I grew up in the time of hair bands, the 80s. All men had long hair. And before that was the hippies. So, I was always attracted to guys with longer hair. It wasn't until my late 30s that I met someone that actually he's a dear friend. Unfortunately, I don't get to speak to him because he's in the military, just like my son, but he had alopecia. He had lots of hair and everything into his teens, and he lost all his hair, even his eyelashes, and he was so attractive. It was, I'm like, wow. And I started noticing, different people that shave their heads and whatnot. Anyways, I've gotten so off track, I'm probably going to have to make this into 3 different videos. But the mistakes that we make, and I know in my particular case, boy, I had been through the ringer. Now, not only at times did I have my 4 that were ages 16 down to infant, and I was working full-time plus many nursing hours, but during the summers I'd have my 3 bonus kids. So there were 7 kids, and I was like the neighborhood mom. And I am so glad that my kids' friends felt comfortable coming and hanging out at my house because I knew who their friends were. I knew what they were doing. I knew what they were up to, that type of thing. People would say to me all the time, I go nuts with just 2 or whatever. How in the world can you handle your 7 and then have a revolving door for, and of course, girls were coming in to see my boys, and my daughter hadn't quite got to that stage yet, except for one guy that she actually ended up being back with now. And I was like, I love it. It was, other than the horrible narcissistic abuse from husband number 2, and he was a raging alcoholic, extremely abusive. So many things, just led me down this path of despair. I lost my aunt, one of my favorite aunts. I did not get along with my mom, but I got along with her sister. I love my Aunt Barbara and my Uncle Osco so much. Osco had passed away just a year before that. 5-6 weeks later, my dad passes away. Stage 4 brain cancer. I'm like, all of this just in this year. And of course, the violence and the abuse, the emotional is probably the worst with narcissists. And I was just thinking the other day, had my first husband and I stayed together, August 3rd, we would have celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary, and we had dated 4 years before then. Now, I knew for a long time, we were young. You think you know it all in your early 20s. I know, because I've been there. And hear my kids saying this and that, and they've had some experiences that have given them great wisdom that some kids would not have at that age. I shouldn't say kids because they're adults, but when I say kids, I just mean my children. And my little Zoe, that's going on 12, she ended up, oh, this is a story time in itself. She was abducted for 8 months. And guys, I know, give me 1,000 likes. I'll give you more of my story. I'm not perfect. I have never claimed to be. But by the grace of God, each and every day, in the blood of Jesus, I am made new in his image. What is in your dash? If you're disappointed, if you're hurt, if you hate going to your job every day, on Friday when you check out your hallelujah, and Monday morning, really Sunday morning, you're waking up already with stomach cramps. It affects your physical health. It has greatly, stress has done so much to my health this year. So, yeah, guys, I have so much I want to talk to you about. There's so much, like the Simone Biles thing, the mommyhood, the nursing channel. I want to get back to Deuteronomy and get started on Matthew. This is returning back from the beach. My channel has grown tremendously. That has been a huge blessing. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but earlier today, Zoe and I went grocery shopping, and she was all glammed out and had her makeup on, and she had given me a kiss. Well, I had no idea that her lip imprints were on my face. I had no clue until I came home, and she just started laughing, and I said, when did you give me that kiss? Because we went to Family Dollar first and then Food Lion. And she said, pretty much right away. You were walking out. You know what? I couldn't take it off. I've had a lot of sadness, and I have got to say, she has been my sunshine. God greatly blessed me with that turning 40 baby. There for a long time, I didn't know where she was. I didn't know if she was being treated right. I didn't even know if she was alive. And the narcissistic thing continues. You think, okay, I have got to say no to this toxicity because it's not hurting those people. They're not giving it a single thought. No, it's giving them supply. And there are tons of great channels on here that can talk to you all about narcissism. There's different forms of it. All of us actually have narcissistic tendencies, but you got to look at it as, okay, what things in particular are you caught up in needing to have that control? And are you hurting people along the road? And I always dreamed of being a mom of a big family, and God blessed me with that. And I never wanted to do anything to hurt my kids. I mean, it just pains my heart to think I could have pained them in any way. But, of course, I was damaged as well for all I went through. And then each relationship added to it. And I had to realize, wow, even though my kids and I could talk about anything, and we had so much fun together, and me being that people pleaser had to affect them in various ways. And I am just really seeing that because of all the drama mama llama, blah 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 blah, you know. Yeah. Guys, what's in your dash? If you're not happy, none of us know how long we have. Think, really, what is it you want to do? What do you need to do? Even if it's little tiny changes each day to get you there. That's going to make you happy and feel like you have purpose. And you don't feel like you are some kind of burden that no one would miss. There's just that headstone. No one wondering about my dash. Sad. And I'm not trying to bring anybody down. Guys, if you would like to see more videos like this, I am pleased to share with you, like I've always said, the things I have learned. Most things have not come easy for me. I have worked hard for everything I have. And then I've had people rob it from me, steal it from me, because I was so trusting and would give people chance after chance after chance after chance. And God does tell us to forgive 70 times 7. That is not a literal thing. He uses a lot of metaphoric type stories. But yeah, we also have to know when we don't throw our pearls before swine. And when it is obvious that you are happier without someone than you are with them, it's time to cut your losses and go. Those are some of the realizations that are really hitting me. So I want you guys to know, you're not the only ones that feel like this. And please, if you ever are thinking that you want to harm yourself, please get in touch with a local hotline. I know every state, every county has them. Talk to someone that you trust. Don't put your stuff on social media. That's one of the big things that I had to do. I was so smeared. The smear campaign with the husband number 2. And I remember my dear friend Michelle, who helped with his alcoholic intervention, saying, don't respond to it. And I'm like, but I didn't do these things, you know. He like made this 23-page attachment, sending them to my closest friends, my family, my children, my first husband, people in my church, people in the new church I was going to. I mean, just nasty, nasty stuff, all from his perspective. And here I was working so hard to make this second marriage work. Because who goes into marriage saying, well, yeah, it's probably going to fail? Well, actually, now I do know some people that are like that. They look at marriage as fast food. And if they're not getting their way, like Burger King, have it your way. If you have any kind of critique, that's the smallest thing, but oh man, they can just cut you up, and you're just barely alive on the floor after what all they think and say of you. No. You take the high road. I know you want to fight back. I so wanted to fight back when my older kids would hear certain things. To this day, I have kept it in the vault because I wasn't the one that necessarily did these things. And it was easy for them, with me not there, to where I could stand up for myself and nip that in the bud right away. Or, you know, nip what the other parent was saying. They get to a point, really, where they're brainwashed. And guys, unfortunately, that really is when you find out who your real friends are. What family members have your back. It's sad. But I tell you what, it draws you closer to God. Like if you have success after success, we typically will say, oh, yay. Maybe not consciously, but we're not giving God the glory for it happening. It was Him that made that happen because of a purpose that is predestined for your life. And He's also given us free will, you know, so He can have a lot of purposes for our life. And we all have gifts and talents. But because of free will, when sin came into the world, we so many times keep our own selves from becoming the person God meant us to be. And that, of course, is to glorify Him and lead others to Him. And regardless of what you're going through, I don't want you to feel bad. It is okay to cry. It is okay to be mad. It is okay to just check out for a while. And what I mean by that is, like, sometimes you just have to say, okay, I've got to focus on me, or I'm going to go start raving mad. Everybody's saying, Wendy, 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 Wendy. And then when I need help, yo, who's around? There's a few, but it's not like high school. They have families, they have spouses, they have children, they have elderly parents to take care of, they have jobs, they are making YouTube channels. Guys, if anything, let me leave you with this thought. So much of what we could be, we give other people the power to have obstacles and put them in our way. And it can be done in a variety of ways. Maybe they know you so well. In the case of the narcissist, they know your weaknesses, the things that were just horrific for you, the things that still make you cry, the things you still don't understand. And they're listening intently. And very little that they tell you about their life is true. Very little. And you're like, when you start figuring it out and standing up for yourself and standing up for your kids, they don't like it. And yeah, the thing is, guys, they've been looking you in the eyes all along and saying, I love you. You're beautiful. You're the greatest, blah, 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 blah. No one has ever done this for me like you do. And then they could be outside on the phone, trash talking you to your family, your own family, your friends, their family, their friends. They're setting the stage because they know that discard is gonna happen. And you are just like oblivious to it, especially if you're a nurturer, empathic, loving person. I'm thinking, oh, I'm giving him his space, you know? Yeah. We'll talk a lot about boundaries with people. I've learned so much. And at first, I felt really guilty for making boundaries because I've always been like, yes, yes. Oh, you changed the plans 4 hours before as I'm driving 5 hours there, and I'm not gonna get any sleep, and I just came off of a 4 day in a row night shift, working 12 to 16 hours each. And you do it anyway. Are you appreciated? No. Now, I wouldn't have missed those things for the world. But I realized by wanting to just be mommy perfect and always stepping in when they had a teacher that they were having difficulties with, I mean, even high school age, that doesn't help them. And guess what? Regardless of what you do to help them, and they may be begging you for that specific help. Well, guess what, guys? Is it thanks, Mom, for this and that and the money you put towards it so that I could do that? No. If it failed, it's all your fault. Welcome to the mommyhood. Guys, I'm going to end this. I love you. Anyone can reach me at hellothompsonwendy at gmail.com. And I promise the next video will be much peppier. Guys, what's in your dash? And what would you like to be remembered for? I would like people to think she loved people regardless of what their situation was. Just as I'm not comparing myself to Jesus, so don't get this wrong, but we are commanded to be Christ-like. We can't do it, but with the help of the Holy Spirit and constant guidance and getting back on the right track each day, then maybe we can be a little bit of a better person than we were the day before. I want to be known for loving all people regardless. Jesus hung out with prostitutes, tax collectors. Judas betrayed him. He was one of the disciples for just a handful of coins. Don't throw in the towel, guys. This has been a rough year. Everybody goes through depression. There is no shame in getting help. There's such crazy stuff still about, oh no, I don't want anybody to think I'm crazy if I have to go to therapy and see a psychiatrist or a counselor. No, guys, your mental health is so important. You don't realize just how much it affects the rest of your body and your being, your happiness, your joy. And when you're not happy and you hear everybody saying, oh, well, you're scum and you're this and you're that, instead of paying attention to the people that are kind and pointing out the good qualities that you have. What do they know about you? Nothing. And they are hiding behind a computer. Most people that say nasty little things on your YouTube channel or Instagram or whatever. If it was face to face, they would never say those things. Well, some people do. They've got some growing to do. We all have growing to do in various areas. When you say, oh, you know, I've learned it all. No. There's no point in you being here if you know it all. You don't know it all. We need a big Savior. He wants us to be close to Him, depend on Him, and He wants to help you realize what's in your dash. God bless your today and all your tomorrows. I love you all.
Did you get ready in the dark or something? 'Cause you look like a beautiful nightmare. Don't you know?